you for inviting me. It's my second time at SAMFest, but my first year here. And as Kurt mentioned, I am a microbiologist. So usually when I tell people that, they greet me with kind of a gross look. They're like, "Ooh, what do you do? That's kind of nasty." Well, it's because we have a lot of ideas about bacteria. So what are some of the first few things that come to your mind when you think of microbes or bacteria?
Sickness.
Small, sickness. Yeah, we think about, what's going to happen when someone's sneezing and what are they going to be spreading my way? Is that going to put me in the hospital? Or maybe what are those gross microbes living in my toilet that I don't really want to go after with that scrub brush? And so it's kind of embedded in our culture to take antibiotics anytime you feel sick, or to really disinfect and clean everything, kill 99.9% of those germs because we don't want them on or around us anywhere. And a lot of this mindset has been framed because the first time we really understood microorganisms, it was because they were causing disease. So germ theory was first, really theorized about 150 years ago, before we understood that microorganisms actually are the agents of many diseases. We thought that it was due to this bad air. So this is a piece of art that was drawn in the 1830s, and it's showing this skeleton creature with this, this miasma, this malaria, bad air. And it was thought that it was just this really bad smelling air that transmitted diseases. And it wasn't until the mid-1800s and later on that we were really able to understand and have the technologies to know that microorganisms cause disease. And since then, we've really learned a lot more about microbes, and especially in the last about 10 years because of new technologies that have developed. But, our mindset is still very much framed by this idea of germ theory. So I'd like to introduce today to you a new perspective on microbes, and one that even I have had to adopt. So when I was a graduate student, my whole project was developing new antibiotics. And so I was a microbe assassin. I was out there trying to kill them. And it wasn't until I met my husband, who's a brewer and a fermenter, he was harnessing microbes. He is a microbe wrangler. And so I've really changed my point of view. So let's start from the very beginning. So microbes have really been around a lot longer than we have. This is a timeline of the last, about 5 billion years or so that our solar system has been around. And if you look at this, humans are way over here at the very end, and we've only been around for 0.0002 billion years, which is about 200,000 years. But microbes were here. They were the first life forms on this planet. They actually terraformed this planet well before plants arrived. They were doing photosynthesis, and they were making this Earth hospitable for all of us other organisms to evolve and grow. And so there's actually never been a time where any animals or plants and humans have existed where microorganisms haven't also been existing with us, evolving with us. And these microorganisms they have colonized basically every niche on this planet. Every little nook and cranny has microorganisms. From our deep sea vents to glaciers. I have a friend who studies microbes down in Antarctica and the glaciers there, to these thermal hot springs. And so 95% of these microorganisms actually don't cause disease. And this is probably much more than that, but they don't cause disease in anything. Less than 5% of bacteria are actually pathogenic. And humans are also an environment that microbes like to colonize. So microbes are everywhere, even on and inside of us. So this is a handprint of a little boy who had been playing outside, and it's on agar, so it's a medium that can grow microorganisms. And each one of these little spots is a single microbe that grew, and now you can actually visualize it. And you can see they're all different colors, all different morphologies, really illustrating the diversity of the microorganisms that live on our skin. And there are about as many microbes in and on us as there are stars in our galaxy. So this is 100 trillion microbes. So that's 1 with 14 zeros after it. That's as many microorganisms, as many microbes as cells, as our own cells. So we have just as many microbes as our own cells in our body. And these microbes live all over our body. They do all sorts of crazy things. And one thing that they do is early on, like I said, we have evolved with these microorganisms. And as soon as we are born, they start colonizing us. There's actually a little bit of evidence that they might be colonizing us before that as well. And there's all sorts of environmental factors that really that help these microorganisms to colonize us. And one thing that I think is really impactful is that these friendly microbes actually train our immune system. So they're educating our immune system, teaching our immune system the good from the bad. And if you don't get early exposure to a diverse set of microorganisms, you're more likely later in life to develop autoimmune diseases. And so it shows this intimate relationship that we have with those microorganisms. And where you live has a big part to play too in the microorganisms that colonize you. So if you live out in the country, it's actually associated with having better health outcomes in many ways because you have all these diverse microorganisms that you're interacting with. But when you live in a city, urbanization actually changes the microbial composition and the different types of microbes you interact with. And it's associated with poor health outcomes. In addition, we share our microbiomes. So I have 2 dogs at home, and if you were to swab my skin and do some sequencing, that's a fancy way of saying identifying the different microbes that are on me, you would be able to tell that I own dogs because I have microorganisms that I share with my animals. You also share your microorganisms with other people that you cohabitate with. So if you end up having a stinky shirt, you can blame it on your housemate or something like that. So we share microorganisms, they're everywhere, they're all over us, and they do lots of crazy things. So if you think about your body like a set of different environments where your skin is dry, your stomach has acid, you're going on all these extreme environments just in your body alone. Your gut, your colon, your large intestine is really the rainforest of your body. This is a cross-section here where it's showing, just like humans, mice also have a gut microbiome. And you can see the mouse guts here, or the mouse gut cells in blue. This is a cross-section of their intestine, and they're producing this mucus layer here. And that mucus has all sorts of functions that I won't get into. But on the other side of this mucus layer is just a plethora, billions of microorganisms. These are all these little dots and dashes are bacteria. And they're doing all sorts of things that we did not expect them to do. They're communicating with each other, they're fighting each other, they're breaking down our food for us, they're releasing serotonin into our bloodstream. In fact, half of our serotonin, which is kind of, if you've ever heard of serotonin, it's this happy neurotransmitter, is actually half is produced by the microorganisms in our gut. So these microorganisms are doing lots of things, and it's really only been the last 10 years or so that we have started to take a deeper look at what they're up to. And in the colon especially, life is fast and furious for these microorganisms. So they are splitting, or every new generation is coming up about every 30 minutes or so. So within a day, you can have 50 different generations come and go. So if you were a human, that would be equivalent to waking up in the morning in the dark ages, and then at the end of the day, it'd be modern day. So we're really cycling through these microorganisms. They're rapidly turning over in our gut. And there's lots of different types of microorganisms there too. And it's all dependent on really your environment and what you are exposed to. So your gut microbiota is always changing and very unique to you. There are many different factors, some of them are not listed here, that influence your gut microbiome, or the different types of organisms that live there. And one main factor that we're going to discuss a little bit is your diet. That's one way that you can really control some of these microorganisms that you are harboring within. So if you look at the modern everyday American and the calories that they take in, about 63% of the calories we eat are processed foods. Only about 12% are actually plant food. and about a quarter of what we eat is animal-derived. And what we know is that all of these different food, everything in our diet, is really influencing the types of microbes that can grow and really thrive in our gut. And things that are processed actually favor processed food, and a lot of animal foods actually enrich for microorganisms that are known to cause health problems like heart disease. So what should we do? Well, you know, when you compare this different diets, like the Mediterranean diet here, or the Western diet here, which is very heavy in processed and meat-related foods, you can see that these diets are interacting directly with other parts of our body. So, you know, we directly take up different nutrients that are available in our food, and they interact with our brain, but they also indirectly select for different types of microbes that can grow in our gut. And those microbes are directly interacting with our brain, with our immune system, with all sorts of endpoints to these microbiomes, including regulating our hormones, our metabolism. There's links to mental health and our immune system. So now that we know that there's this diet microbiome health connection, what can we do to really enrich for the good bacteria, the ones that we know make us healthy? Well, what we like to say is you want to seed them, so you first bring in and plant the healthy bacteria. And a lot of those healthy microorganisms come from live food. So food that had like yogurt, like unprocessed and unpasteurized fermented foods like sauerkraut, kimchi, kombucha, things like that. And after we seed them, we have to feed them. So these microorganisms like to eat plant-based foods. So if you give them what they like to eat, they can break it down and actually deliver more nutrients to you, and you're enriching for those good microbes. So I know that you might have started this talk thinking of, that microbes are all these maniacal microbes and we have to get rid of them. And that was definitely my mindset too, as a microbe assassin. But I have really changed my point of view. I hope that you have too. And I hope that you gain a bigger appreciation for the fact that you are more than just yourself, that you are half microbe. You're really acting as a superorganism in all sorts of complex ways that we don't completely understand. And I hope that you embrace that unseen world inside you. So, thank you all, especially to Kurt for inviting me today.